Can you please record? There's no question that Vanessa Sullivan's death is a tragedy. And it is sad that she will never get another birthday to celebrate. But what happened that night was a car crash, was an accident, not a murder, and not Danny Dawson's fault. Danny Dawson that night was a responsible friend. And you'll hear that as the driver, Miss Dawson did everything she could that night to bring her friends Vanessa Sullivan and Taylor Hobson back home safely. Now the prosecution is charging Miss Dawson with murder. So let's go through the events of that night to see if this car crash was murder, like what the prosecution is saying, or an accident given the unfavorable conditions. Because it was a car crash. A car crash that happened under dangerous weather conditions. A car crash that happened at a site lacking safety precautions. A car crash that could have happened to anyone driving that road that night. The day started off well for Miss Dawson. She and her friends were planning to go to the local bar, Chuggy's, to celebrate Vanessa's 21st birthday. She and Vanessa are great friends through their shared major of urban studies. And the birthday party was just going to be the two of them, and Vanessa's friend, Taylor. You'll hear soon from Danny Dawson herself that she was a responsible friend. And yes, she did have some drinks that night. But you'll hear that she has a long history of not drinking and driving, of taking cabs when she goes to the bar. She's a responsible person, and that night, she feels fine to drive. And now, the nightmare actually begins when they go outside and they begin their car ride home. It's dark outside. It's pitch black. And it's raining and it's pouring rain, and Miss Dawson hopes that the rain will let up. In the cramped space of the car, there are distractions everywhere. Distractions on the road, and you'll hear from Taylor Hobson herself that there are distractions in the back seat. And now she's just straining to see the road in front of her, and that's when, through the rain, through the darkness, she sees something jump in front of the vehicle. And she's scared, and she doesn't want to get into an accident, and so she does what anybody would have done. She swerves to the side. And she swerves, and when she tries to get back on the road, because of the rain on the road, she hydroplanes. And she spins across, she hits a pole, and then a tree, and then the tragedy happens. Later, you'll hear from an accident reconstructions that maneuver was the reason this accident happened. Not because of alcohol, not because of the speed of the vehicle, but because of the action of trying to avoid another accident. You also learn that there wasn't a guardrail that extended far enough to extend even a responsible driver. That there was a tree shockingly close to the edge of the pavement where there should have been a guardrail. Later that night, the police officer came, Foster, and took Miss Dawson's BAC. They got an extremely high reading, but expect to hear from another blood alcohol expert that there was no way Miss Dawson's blood alcohol concentration was that high that night. Now let's talk about what the prosecution has to prove to you. They have to prove to you that beyond a reasonable doubt, Miss Dawson is guilty of murder. That she has shown a manifest indifference to human life. And what this means that when she got in the car that day, she knew she was putting lives in danger. This is the highest burden in our legal system. It is the same charge as if Miss Dawson took a gun and shot Vanessa. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a cold-blooded murder. Miss Dawson did not want, intend, or plan Miss Sullivan's life. She was a responsible friend that night. She drove appropriately given the curve, given the horrible weather conditions, given the curviest point in Canyon Road, given the fact that there wasn't a guardrail where there should have been, and there was a tree where there shouldn't have been. These are the factors that cause accidents. And what happened that night was an accident. For that reason, in the closing, we're going to ask that you find Danny Dawson not